Yo, YouTube, what's going on? Welcome back to the Jonathan Astor channel. I, of course, am your host, John Hassinger, for this out-of-theater reaction to Weapons. Boy, oh boy. This movie was surprising in ways I was not expecting. Obviously, in the trailer, they set up the premise. All the students in a single classroom don't show up for school one day, except for one student. All the parents are pointing fingers, at the teacher. The teacher is just as confused, seemingly, on the surface. And what's unique about this movie, spoiler warning. If you haven't seen Weapons, pause this video and then go watch it and then come back and watch this. A couple just surface level stuff before I get into the story. The way they film and the way they tell this story is really unique. They just did it in a way where you are just so sucked in to what is happening on the screen that it's almost impossible to disengage and be like, this is just a movie. It is one of the most engrossing horror movies ever. And I think the use of the camera, the use of sound, the score, and then silence, the POV. I love how it starts. It's almost told the way that the Game of Thrones books are told, where you follow individual characters basically around the same story, but from their points of view. So sometimes they intersect, sometimes they don't, and then they all kind of culminate. They start with Julia Garner's character, then they go to Josh Brolin, then they go to what's his name? Alden Ehrenreich, who is a cop who is struggling with alcoholism and infidelity. Julia Garner's character is just a single teacher who maybe overcompensates with her students and trying to help because she just has no life at home. And Josh Brolin is this father who lost his son. He lost his only boy. And, he sleeps in his kid's Batman sheeted bed and just doesn't even speak to his wife. So we're following, and then we follow, after the cop, after Alden Ehrenreich, we follow a meth addict. Full-blown meth addict. All he's doing is trying to steal and pawn and buy more meth. Oh, and then we follow the one boy, the one student who didn't disappear that day, or did come to school that day. The story's slowly progressing as the characters' tales are intertwining and then connecting, and you're starting to maybe figure out someone is being possessed or having a spell cast on them. The meth addict is just running through houses, looking for things to steal, to sell, to buy meth. And he stumbles into a house where people are just sitting at the table. The husband and wife are just sitting at the table. And then he goes down to the basement, and there's a whole bunch of kids down in the basement. So then he goes and tells the cop, Alden Ehrenreich, and, Alden Ehrenreich brings him to the house. He makes him wait in the car. Alden Ehrenreich, the cop, goes into the house, closes the door. Flash forward to nighttime, and the kid is still, the meth head is still in the car. He's still kind of what's going on? Why am I? And then finally the door opens. Alden Ehrenreich's character comes out, and then he runs straight towards the meth head, pulls him out of the car, drags him into the house. And Josh Brolin's character the whole time is just obsessed. He's obsessed with rewatching the video of his son running out the front door, because all the kids at 2:17 a.m. woke up, walked out of the house, and just ran into the darkness. but they all basically ran in straight lines. You know, Josh Brolin's character's kind of figuring that out. He's like, okay, he ran this way, and then he asks another family, like, which way did your... Justin Long has a great, not like a cameo, but a very short role. And, you know, Josh Brolin first asks his wife, and she's like, I'm uncomfortable with you watching the video. And then he times it to when Justin Long gets home from work, and he's like, hey, and he talks to him, and he gets him to let him watch the video. So then he draws like an intersection of both lines from the addresses, and it's like, yo, somewhere around here. And Julia Gardner's like, wait a minute, that's Alex's home, and Alex is the one boy who showed up to school that day. So something is going on at his house, and that was the same house that the cop pulled James, the meth head, into the house. So it's cool. Like you know, they'll tell the perspective of Julia Gardner's character. I'm forgetting her name right now, and the screen will go black and just say her name. And then you'll see everything up to a certain point. Usually when they intersect with the next character, the screen will go black and it'll say their name. So it was very easy to follow and remember everyone's names, which I usually am so bad at. But then they follow Wong's character. Wong is like the principal supreme, sitting there getting ready for a meeting with Alex's parents. And you know, his assistant is like, your 2 o'clock is here. And he's like, oh, okay, send him in. And she's like, this is for Alex, you know, whatever. And he's like, oh, okay, send him in. And it's this short little lady with like a red, orangish red wig with short bangs and big giant Florida. Like, just picture a typical Florida retiree, you know. Just picture that person with like the lipstick that like is now like sweating onto the skin around the lips, and everyone's kind of like confused. And she's like, well, I'm actually Alex's aunt, and I'm, you know, his parents are very sick. And he's like, what's wrong with them? And she's like, oh, overconsumption. And he's like, well, I really need to speak to them, not you. I need their legal guardian. And she's like, oh, well, I just can't let that happen. And he's like, I kind of forget how it ends, but anyway, he's like, well, let's see if we can meet in person, you know, go speak to them, and when they're feeling better, let me know. And he's like, I don't want to get Child Protective Services involved. And so she's like, oh, okay. And so then they go to him, and he is at the food store with his husband. They're like getting cereal. I think they're like maybe planning for like a weekend, you know, a weekend together at home, just chilling out, relaxing. And they get home and they're like, you know, they've got like snacks and hot dogs and just like the Nature Channel on, and they're just chilling. And all of a sudden a knock at the door, and it's her. It's the aunt. And she's like, I was lost and I missed my bus. I was on the wrong side of the road, and I just knew you were here, and oh my gosh, your house is so wonderful. And she's like, could I just have some water? And Wong is like, no. And then his husband is like, yeah, come on in, you can have some water. And she's like sitting there, and she's like looking around the house, and she's like talking to them. And she's like, well, could I just have a glass of water? So they go into the kitchen, and Wong notices that she has like this twig with one of his like ribbons that he had like on display wrapped around it. And he's like, is that my ribbon? And she's like, oh yeah. And they like keep talking, and she like drinks the water, and she like gets scissors and like jumps over and cuts the husband's hair and like takes it. And he's like, she just cut my hair. And he's like, call 911. And she's wrapping the hair around the twig, and then she pokes herself and takes her blood and rubs it all over and snaps it. And as soon as that happens, Wong like attacks his husband and headbutts him, dude. I had to close my eyes. I couldn't watch after the 8th headbutt. I swear, I don't know how many headbutts he gave him, but it was too many. And my eyes are closed, and I just keep hearing the whoosh, whoosh. The sound effect just didn't stop. And then she takes out a clip, because earlier in Julia Garner's chapter, someone cut a piece of her hair off. And she wraps that around and she snaps that. And Wong stands up and just runs. And then it meets up with Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, and Wong is coming and is beelining right for her. So you figure out that she uses this spell that she does with this branch and her blood and like an item from a person to inflict pain or death on that person. Or to basically make that person like a weapon. Now, this aunt, we dive deep into her, she's dying. And she's trying to use some sort of spell to, I don't know. See, this is the unexplained shit. Like, I think she was trying to save her life by, like, you know, sucking the life out of her sister and her husband, you know, Alex's mother and father. And that didn't really work, which is really odd. They didn't get into that. Like, it didn't work, so she's like, I have an idea, because she was getting really sick. And Alex is like, oh, you know, Stockholm Syndrome, what can I do to help you? How can I save you? And she's like, well, if you get an object from every one of your classmates and bring it back here, I think that'll save me. And he's like, how? And she's like, I think it's what will save me. And he's like, if it saves you, then will you go back home? And she's like, and then I'll go back home. If it saves me, then I'll go back home. And so he's like, okay. So he starts like eyeing up things in his classroom, and he's like, I can take that from her, I can take that from him. And then he looks at all the like individual cubby bins and just rips off the label, the name label of all of them, puts them in his backpack, gets out of there, gives them to his aunt, who's obviously a crazy witch, and she starts like ripping them up and like putting them in a cauldron. And Alex like finds her and he's like, what are you doing? And she like does another thing, and then next thing you know, at 2:17 in the morning, all the kids come running straight to that house. And they all go down the basement. So my theory is that she's trying to use that to get the kids there, to suck the kids' life force, or use whatever she was trying to use with her sister and husband, Alex's parents, from these kids. Again, I don't know if that was explained. If it was, I missed it. All the kids are there. The witch is aware now, her aunt is aware now that like the townspeople are on to her and like they're coming. So she's like, yo, pack up your stuff, Alex, we gotta get out of here. And she's like, don't cross the salt. Don't walk over the salt line. Because she had lines of salt around the house. Julia Garner and Josh Brolin, they come and they're like parked and they're waiting outside because they're like, you know, Alex's house is in this like area where all the kids were running to. And they're waiting outside the house. The cop, Alden Ehrenreich's character, comes to the front door and opens it and like waves them in. But it's like very robotic. It's just like this. And then he goes back inside. So they look at each other and they're like, okay. So they get out of the truck and they walk in. And they're kind of like, just like standing in the far corner of the room. And she's like, hey. And she starts like walking towards him. And Josh Brolin's like walking around the house and he like looks on the ground and he sees one of the salt lines and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And she touches it. And he comes running at her like, yeah! And then James, the meth head, who's also there, because he was drugged in earlier, he comes running after Josh Brolin, and they like both get attacked by them. So upstairs, Alex and his parents are standing right outside the door, and there's a salt line in front of them. And he's like walks up and he steps over it. Of course, his parents start attacking him. He runs. They run through doors. He runs through another room into another room. They smash through another door, and he can't find his aunt. And she's actually downstairs in the basement with all the kids, where Josh Brolin eventually gets to after he smashes the shit out of James. The witch attacks him, and they flash away. Meanwhile, Alex is upstairs being chased by his parents. He's locked in the bathroom, and they're trying to smash through the door, but he sees her twig and her wig. So he takes a strand of the wig, he takes the twig, he pricks himself, he wraps it all together, he holds it up, snap. He snaps the twig with the witch's hair around it, and suddenly all the children and the witch like knows when it's happening, because she has since sent Josh Brolin up to kill Julia Garner, and he's got her in a front face headlock, and she's about to go, and all of a sudden the witch realizes that the spell was just put on her, and the kids all come running up the steps, and she runs out the front, and they smash through the windows and the doors, and they chase her all throughout the neighborhood, and they finally get her, and they rip her apart. They tear her apart, and it kind of like breaks the spell, but like everyone's still kind of like delusional and like dumb. But Josh Brolin breaks the hold on Julia Garner, and she lives. And then he goes down and he runs outside, and he eventually finds the kids all standing around this ripped apart body, and his son is there, and he's kind of in a daze, and he picks him up, and he's like carrying him off. And the narrator who came on at the beginning that kind of tells the story in the trailer says, and all the children were reunited with their parents that day. Some of them have even begun speaking a year later. And that's how it ended. Dude, I'm telling you, there are just unexplained jump scare moments where you're like, well, I know a monster's not coming. I know like a demon isn't coming, but there's something unexplained coming and running at me, or running at, the character that you're with. So it is just one of the most engrossing horror movies ever. If you're a fan of horror, if you're a film fan, because like I said, for the beginning of Julia Garner's character's like chapter, they are really just over her shoulders from behind while she's like walking around. It follows her from behind. Then in the second half, it follows her from like the front, after you kind of get to know her like flaws and how she's like this lonely woman who's kind of hooking up with this cop who's cheating on his wife, who's the daughter of his police chief. It's just a very, very layered movie that, like, I don't know how long it was, but I just kept thinking, like, this has got to be over soon, and how are they going to wrap it up? They still have more to tell. It didn't feel like it went by quickly, and it didn't feel too long. It was just really a really, really well done kind of new style, but almost like an old film tricks polished up. Old horror film tricks polished up. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you haven't seen it, let me know if you plan to. And if you have, let me know what you think. If you didn't like it, if you did, if you're indifferent. Either way, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next week. I gotta go.